Welcome back. Happy Monday to you. On October 1st, Jagmeet Singh made history in Canada. The former member of provincial parliament in Ontario became the NDP's federal leader. In doing so, he also became the first racial minority to lead a major Canadian political party. Now he's crisscrossing the country as he tries to rebuild a party that was knocked down to third place in the 2015 federal election. Here to talk about that is Jagmeet Singh. Welcome to the program. Thank you so much for coming on this morning.
It's an honor to be here.
Welcome to Halifax, I should say.
Thank you, thank you.
I want to start off with last night. You had an event at Line and Bread on Agricola Street, a simple meet and greet, but it was actually inundated with people, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was pretty incredible. So we call them Jagmeet and greets, which is, I think, a pretty cute name. I can say that because I didn't come up with the name. But yeah, it was incredible. We had probably 250 people in the venue, maybe more. It was a packed venue. And then almost 100 people outside, maybe even more, waiting to get in. And they waited for a good hour so they could make their way in. And it was incredible to have that outpouring of love and support. It was phenomenal.
Crowds like that, you know, allow for even more comparisons between you and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. I'm just wondering what message you take from a crowd like that in Halifax on a cold Sunday night.
Yeah, just that there's a lot of excitement and hope. People really want to believe in something, and they want to believe in politics, which is going to represent people's voice and take their issues to Ottawa. I think there's so much potential and so much hope out there, and there's so much optimism out there. I've always said I want to tap into that and inspire people.
And, you know, I assume that you take heart from a big crowd in Halifax, but I'm wondering, given the blow that the party took, especially on the East Coast in 2015, what do you do next? How do you actually turn that turnout into something that's meaningful at Parliament Hill?
Well, here's one issue I think that's really important. 50% of Canadians in the Atlantic provinces voted for the Liberals, but they got 100% of the seats. That's why electoral reform was a big issue, because 50% of people in the Atlantic provinces don't really have their voice reflected. That to me is not fair. And people hope for something different. They hope that the government would actually implement some changes to that. They were in fact promised that that would happen, but it didn't actually come out. And in fact, people were, their hope was betrayed. Their trust was betrayed. And I want to reinstill that hope and say, listen, we can actually come up with a system that's proportional, that actually reflects the actual voice of the people.
And I see your point that, you know, that was one of the promises that the Liberals campaigned on, but we haven't seen their support go down. Out here especially, they have very strong support since all of those changes, since they backed away from that promise. So why does that issue specifically make you think that it would be different for you the next time around?
Well, I think that it's not just the issue, and I think it's more about the people having their voice heard and represented. And I think that if it's framed that way, it's not just about a broken promise, it's that hope that people had to have a better system. And I don't think there's been a strong opposition to actually raise that issue. Now that I'm in the position of a leader of the federal party, I can put forward that saying, listen, this is not just a broken promise, but it's an opportunity to give people a better voice. And I think we're a better democracy when people actually work together, when we have a parliament that's better reflective of the people, that, you know, that's their wish, that's their voice, that's what they want to see happen. I think then we can actually come out with better results.
And so when we see people like Megan Leslie, Peter Stauffer, Robert Chisholm lose in the last election, those are really strong voices, not just in Ottawa, but also on the ground here in Nova Scotia, and also people who lost in New Brunswick. That you don't have that daily voice here anymore. So you come in for a few days, but how do you keep that going, that people actually even know you're an option in the next 2 years if you don't have voices on the ground saying that?
Well, I think people are missing those voices. I think if you look at the issues that are being raised, I mean, healthcare is a massive issue in Atlantic provinces, but not having a representative from the East Coast to actually hold the government to account, I think people are starting to see that missing voice, that missing representation. We have
but so what do you do then, right? That's the question.
Sure, yeah.
You're saying that there is a hole, so what do you do in the next 2 years?
Yeah, well, we continue to hold these events where we actually inspire people, excite people. We're going to have people on the ground here. There's still those voices. There's still representatives that actually can organize events, that can continue the conversation. We're going to make sure that we have strong candidates lined up, ready for the next election. But that's what it is, exactly, that we're going to have people that are going to be be the representatives for the New Democratic Party here in the Atlantic provinces speaking about these issues even when I'm not here.
And at your event last night, what were the main issues that people were bringing up to you? Was it more about them meeting you, or was it about them saying, this is something that is a worry for me, or that is a red flag for me?
Yeah, a couple of issues came up. For sure, people were excited to meet the new leader, but I think a lot of the issues that came up, there's healthcare concerns and the fact that we've seen over the past number of years kind of a decrease in federal funding to healthcare, and that's part of the reason why we have such a massive crisis. I talked about the pharmacare plan that New Democrats have been pushing, and I'm really encouraged about this being the next bold step for expanding our healthcare system. It's going to cover a lot of people who don't have access to medication, but also it's going to bring down the cost of healthcare so we can reinvest in actually frontline care like doctors and nurses. People talked about the environment, and I'm really committed to protecting the environment. Folks were concerned about reconciliation with Indigenous peoples. Carding came up and street checks. It's an issue that's getting a lot of
really
attention.
big in Halifax.
Yeah, it's a big issue that's coming up, and I've done a lot of work on that issue in Toronto. It's quite well known for that issue. It's something that I believe in, that we need to build a society that's inclusive, where no one is left behind, and a society where no one is stopped by the police simply because of the color of their skin or their identity. People should be stopped for objective criteria, some evidence-based reasons. That's what we need to move towards.
Okay, I got to wrap it up there.
No worries.
Obviously, lots to talk about. Thank you so much for coming
Thank
on the
you.
show. Jagmeet Singh here in Halifax for today, and then he moves on to St. John's next. Stay with us on Global News Morning. We'll be back in a few minutes' time with your local news headlines.